Hello, beautiful people. So, something that people might not tell you about the awakening journey, about ascending into higher vibrations. I want to talk about that today because it's a really, really important topic. Because we're hearing all over the place, positive vibes only, high vibes only, vibrate higher. What does that really mean in the awakening process? So, let's dive into this. Vibing high means you're raising your vibration. In the awakening process, we start to quicken our vibration. So as human beings, we are dense. We are vibrating at a frequency that's lower. And while we go through our awakening process, we start releasing, right, through shadow work, through energy work, through personal growth, through whatever practice you do. Um, we start to take that density and we start lifting it out. We start releasing it, okay? So as we release the density of thoughts, feelings, emotions, points of view, judgments, forms, and structures, we basically are kind of pulling the rug out from under our 3D life. And when we do that, we start to slough off dense frequency. And as a result, we start vibrating higher. We start having a frequency that's going faster. So we become lighter beings and we're vibing higher. But what they don't tell you is that when you are vibing higher, quickening and stuff, the contrast of the density becomes clearer and clearer. So this is where we start to see that we think we're becoming more intuitive or more tuned in. And really, we're vibrating higher. And the way I see it is just like the contrast of the gap between a high frequency and a low frequency starts to become more and more apparent. And the cool part is that we can be vibing high in our consciousness, in our conscious reality. I mean, I'm in a good mood. I'm thinking about the silver linings, right? But really, that's only like 10% of what really creates our vibration fully. So the other 90% is hanging out in our subconscious. And sometimes we're not realizing that. We're not realizing all the heavy stuff, the density that's in our subconscious. And it doesn't have to just be like trauma and hard times. In our subconscious is really like all the forms and structures through all lifetimes that we've bought into. All like the negative programming, all just the programming to get through a 3D existence, all hangs out in our subconscious. So, as we raise our vibration, we're fine tuning and we start to kind of be like ninja of feeling into what's dense in us. And that's when we really start to work with the shadow side. We start to really feel and sense that subconscious density that's really holding us down, that really prevents us from being, deliberate creators of our lives, that prevents us from true enlightenment. So the work is, as we raise our vibration, is to feel the contrast of the gap of the density that's in the subconscious and work there and work at starting to lighten that load, going deeper and deeper and deeper into the subconscious densities and working through them, feeling them, assessing them, being like, is this still pertinent to my life right now? Is it time to let it go? Let it go, let it go. So, guys, are you ready to let go of the deeper density? So, as we're playing with our high vibe and our consciousness and our conscious level of beingness, now it's time to go a little deeper. The conscious level, it's easy. So it's an awakening process, but just like, once you get there, it's kind of easy to just be like, I'm high vibing, I'm gonna choose a good mood. But then all of a sudden, with that contrast, you can start to feel like a yo-yo. You're like, I'm high vibing. And the next day you're like, oh my God, I'm so depressed. I want to die. You start to play that yo-yo. And so just know that this is really common, and it's a sign. It's a sign that you have raised your vibration high, and now you can really feel the subtle densities. And sometimes the subtle densities in the subconscious can feel like really big density, can feel like a big deal. And it really isn't. It's just that you are vibing pretty high in one area, and this just feels like such a contrast. So basically, we're just managing the gap of the contrast of frequencies. And the awakening process and the ascension process is just closing the gap, so that your default is a high light vibration, is source self, that you function and run from a high frequency, a high vibe all the time, regardless of what's happening out in realities. Okay, you get to be the master of your reality right here, your vibrational reality. And none of that has to change with whatever you're witnessing, right, in the news, or with family conflict, or global warming, whatever it is, whatever topic it is. You don't have to go there vibrationally once you've managed the gap of this contrast of frequency. And then you get to play with sustaining that higher frequency. And so your practice becomes not sloughing off density, but maintaining lightness. And so that's kind of the difference with kind of the beginning stages of awakening and kind of the more advanced stages of awakening and ascension, is that there's not a lot of sloughing off dense frequencies and working with that shadow and deep subconscious. That happens in the beginning and middle and stuff. And then in advanced awakening, you're really working at sustaining. And those practices are about, like, you start to be aware of what maybe cords onto you, or what, when you walk into a room, what's going on, and you just kind of clear your field. It's not really a deep subconscious thing anymore. You just kind of return to sender, clear the field, and you can destroy and uncreate energies before you go to bed at night. It's just making sure that you're really keeping your vibe protected and high. And so that's what I wanted to talk about, guys. So let me know, is this making sense? And so vibing high, and high vibes only, it's fun, but also don't be scared of the deeper work that's in the subconscious, because when you're vibing high, you become more aware. You become very, very aware. And that's when our empathic skills start coming in. We start being aware of all the moods, right, in the room, and all the personalities and all the trauma in the room. And it's that beginning stage of just vibe high, and then all of a sudden you're realizing all the different frequencies in the room, and it freaks you out. You don't want to be around anyone, and you start kind of cutting people out. And there's that. Now, when you reach you've managed the gap, and you've reached a high frequency, and you're working at raising it up and being consistent with it, you may start getting more selective as well, but just in a natural way. Like all of a sudden, certain person, places, or things just aren't on your radar anymore. It's really not in your timeline, basically. It's just not part of your reality, because it's just not a vibrational match. But we're in the beginning stages of, like, only high vibes only kind of thing. That is a little bit of a fear program, and that all this stuff takes care of itself vibrationally without having to have a huge effort. But when we're in that crossover stage of like, really being like, no, and just having it just easily flow into our lives, um, there's a little like, do I have to, should I choose this or not choose this? It's a little like chunky at first. Does that make sense? Like the word chunky. It's a little like, um, I've noticed this with myself. I can start to be like, I can't be around this and I can't be around that. And I'm just like, that is such a fear, a low frequency um, way of going about things. Like my vibration will take care of it all. And I just have to choose for the lightness. So that's what I want to wrap up with here today is that as you raise your vibration, you don't have to kind of go, high vibes only. Your vibration takes care of it. And the cool part is that it takes care of it when you're willing to choose for your lightness. So what is lightness? Lightness feels like that if you like take a step towards something, everything opens up. You can feel your vibration raise up. Okay, then choose it. But if you walk towards something and all of a sudden like your reality just collapses on you and contracts on you, you might not want to choose that. But there's no right and wrong of it at all. You might get that by contracting and going toward that, you're gonna get something. I don't know. So there's no right and wrong. It's just whatever choice we make creates awareness for us. But good rule of thumb is that if you take a step towards something and it lights you up and expands you and creates butterflies and that sense of feeling, choose it. So that's what I mean. Your vibration will just take care of you. You'll just feel it. And if it closes down, you might want to not choose that. Now, the thing is that sometimes we get tripped up with like going to visit family or feeling like you want to be a support system to a sister or your child, and like you walk toward it and you're like, wow, this feels heavy. It doesn't feel like a vibrational match for my highest frequency, yet I don't want to let them down. So you have to make a choice around that. Go into something that's heavy and do it anyway and try to make lightness of it. Or just explain to your person, just like, I love you and I would love to support you. I can't support you in this activity, but can we go over here and do this activity together so I can, just honor and celebrate you. So there's that kind of thing too. So as we go through these vibrational adjustments, as we get into our higher vibrations and feel the gaps in our subconscious and feel the density and start to move the density out and feel like a yo-yo vibrationally for a little while, and then start to feel the gap close. And when you're here, you don't necessarily have to be like high vibes only type of thing, because you just know where to go. Okay, and as we're here, you never get there. You may have closed the gap a bit and then you raise up and then you have to close the gap again, but the gaps get more subtle and that's a lot easier. But in the beginning stages of awakening, you start having experiences where your vibe is so high and you're still dealing with some really low vibe density stuff in your subconscious, and that's where that yo-yo, and that's where we just have a lot of compassion for ourselves and people in that yo-yo part of awakening. But as you close that gap, guess what happens? You're always going to be expanding, but the gap gets smaller and it does get a little easier. That's my perspective anyway. So beautiful people, let me know if you have any comments or concerns, and if you could use support through your awakening journey. I do mentoring and I have a free 30-minute call to see if we are a match, if you'd like some questions answered and just do some visioning work with me. So you can find that in the descriptions of how to get that free call. Beautiful people, have a wonderful, bright, light day. Keep choosing for your lightness. Namaste.